A young delivery boy saved an elderly lady from being run over. But when a black SUV stopped in front of his house the next day, his hands trembled as he opened the envelope. The alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m. Marcus's hand shot out from under the thin blanket, smacking the phone screen. His feet hit the cold floor of the small Bronx apartment as the radiator clanked in protest against the October chill. "Baby, you up already?" His mother's voice carried from the next room, followed by a harsh cough. Marcus grabbed his delivery uniform from the chair. "Yeah, Ma. Go back to sleep. It's too early. Did you eat something?" Another cough rattled through the wall. "I will. Ma. Don't worry." He pulled on his worn jeans and zipped up the bright orange delivery jacket. The kitchen light flickered as Marcus opened the fridge. Empty shelves stared back at him, except for a half-empty carton of milk and some bread. He grabbed both, making a quick sandwich. His mother's wheelchair squeaked against the linoleum floor. "You're taking double shifts again, aren't you?" Marcus turned to see her in the doorway, her thin frame wrapped in a faded bathrobe. Dark circles underlined her eyes. "Just trying to catch up on the bills, Ma." She wheeled closer, picking up the stack of envelopes on the kitchen table. The red final notice stamp glared from the top one. "The hospital called yesterday. They want to know when we can start paying. I got it covered." Marcus stuffed the sandwich in his mouth, avoiding her eyes. "Got some good tips yesterday. You're killing yourself with these hours." She reached for his hand. Her fingers felt cold. "What about college?" Marcus swallowed hard. "Community college isn't going anywhere, Ma. Right now, we need to get you better." His phone buzzed. The delivery app showed his first pickup, Manhattan, 6 a.m., priority orders. "Gotta go, Ma. Take your meds?" "Okay." He kissed her forehead. "And stay in bed today. Doctor said you need rest. Be careful out there." She grabbed his wrist. "Those Manhattan streets are crazy in the morning." Marcus grabbed his bike helmet from the hook by the door. The helmet had a crack from last week's close call with a taxi, but it still worked. He checked his phone again. 5 priority deliveries already lined up. The building's elevator was broken again. Marcus carried his bike down 5 flights of stairs, the metal frame cold against his shoulder. Outside, the street lamps cast yellow pools on the empty sidewalk. His bike chain creaked as he started pedaling. The morning air bit through his jacket, but he'd warm up after a few blocks. Traffic lights blinked red in the pre-dawn darkness. The subway rumbled underneath as Marcus crossed the bridge into Manhattan. The city skyline cut black shapes against the gray sky. Delivery cyclists nodded at him as they passed, their orange jackets like warning signs in the dark. His first pickup was at a fancy bakery in the Upper East Side. The smell of fresh bread hit him as he locked his bike. Through the window, he watched workers in white aprons stack pastries in neat rows. "You're early." The manager barely looked up as Marcus entered. "Orders are there." He pointed to a stack of boxes. Marcus checked the addresses on his phone. All within 10 blocks. All marked priority, extra tip for early delivery. The boxes went into his delivery bag. The weight settled against his back as he swung his leg over the bike. His stomach growled, reminding him of the half-eaten sandwich. Rich people needed their breakfast. Marcus had learned that during his 3 years of deliveries. They pay extra to have fresh croissants waiting when they woke up. The streets were waking up. Delivery trucks double-parked, their hazard lights flashing. Construction workers in hard hats carried coffee cups. Doormen swept sidewalks in front of luxury buildings. Marcus weaved between cars, checking addresses. The delivery app chirped with new orders. His phone showed 5:45 a.m. If he hurried, he could finish the morning rush by 9. The medical bill amounts flashed in his head with each pedal stroke. $3,000 for the last hospital stay. $2,000 for the new wheelchair. $500 for medications. The numbers never stopped climbing. A taxi cut him off, forcing him onto the curb. The driver didn't even look back. Marcus steadied himself, checking if the pastry boxes were intact. Can't afford a bad review. Not today. He made the first delivery to a penthouse on Park Avenue. The doorman eyed his orange jacket with suspicion until Marcus showed the order on his phone. "Leave it at the desk," the doorman said, turning back to his newspaper. The tip notification popped up on his screen, $5. Better than nothing. 4 more deliveries to go. Morning light crept between the buildings as Marcus rode north. More people filled the sidewalks now. Business suits and briefcases. Designer clothes and expensive shoes. Everyone in a hurry. His phone vibrated. A new priority order popped up. Premium client, double pay for immediate pickup. Marcus checked the map. The pickup was 3 blocks east. The delivery address was in the financial district. Long ride, but double pay meant double tips. He turned onto Madison Avenue. The bike lane was blocked by a construction site. Orange cones and heavy equipment took up half the street. That's when he saw her. An elderly woman in a pink coat, walking slowly with a cane. She stepped into the crosswalk just as the light turned yellow. Marcus noticed 3 things at once: the construction truck starting to move, the woman's slow pace, and the driver looking down at something in his cab. His heart jumped into his throat. The truck's engine roared. The woman was only halfway across. Marcus's hands tightened on the handlebars as time seemed to slow down. The moment of decision stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Drop the deliveries or keep going. Risk everything or stay safe. The truck rolled forward. The woman took another slow step. Marcus's bike was already moving before his brain finished deciding. The moment of impact was coming, and he knew exactly what he had to do. Marcus's delivery bag hit the ground. Pastry boxes scattered across the sidewalk as he jumped off his bike, letting it crash behind him. His legs pumped against the pavement, sneakers slapping concrete with each stride. 10 steps to the crosswalk. The construction truck's engine growled louder. 7 steps. The elderly woman looked up, her eyes widening as she saw the truck's grill bearing down on her. 4 steps. Watch out. Marcus's shout ripped through the morning air. 2 steps. His hands reached out, grabbing the pink coat. The rough fabric bunched between his fingers as he pushed with everything he had. The woman's cane clattered against the pavement. Her surprised gasp mixed with the screech of truck brakes. Marcus felt the rush of air as the massive vehicle missed them by inches. They both fell. Marcus twisted his body to take the impact, hitting the ground hard. Pain shot through his right shoulder. The woman landed on top of him, lighter than he expected. The truck skidded to a stop. Its horn blared through the street, echoing off building walls. "Lady, you okay?" Marcus's voice came out breathless. His heart hammered against his ribs. She rolled to the side, trembling. I think so." Her white hair had come loose from its neat bun. You saved my life." Traffic stopped. Car horns blared. People gathered around them, phones out, recording everything. The truck driver jumped down from his cab, face pale. Oh God, I didn't see. I was just... Back up. Give them space." Someone in a business suit pushed through the crowd. "Don't try to move. I'm calling an ambulance." Marcus sat up, wincing. His delivery jacket was torn at the shoulder. Road rash burned on his palms where he'd braced their fall. "No ambulance." The woman's voice was surprisingly firm. "Just help me up, please." Marcus got to his feet, ignoring the pain. He reached down to help her, but several hands were already there, lifting her gently. "Mrs. Thompson, are you hurt?" A doorman from the nearby building rushed over. "I saw everything. That truck came out of nowhere." Mrs. Thompson straightened her coat, her hands still shaking. "I'm quite all right, James. Thanks to this young man." She turned to Marcus. "What's your name, dear?" "Marcus." Marcus Wilson." A black Mercedes screeched to a halt at the curb. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out, his face tight with concern. "Mother." He pushed through the crowd. "I was 3 blocks away when James called." "What happened?" "William, I'm fine." Mrs. Thompson patted her son's arm. "This brave young man saved me from a terrible accident." William Thompson looked at Marcus, his expression unreadable. His eyes took in the torn delivery jacket, the scraped hands, the scattered pastry boxes on the sidewalk. "You saved my mother." Marcus nodded, suddenly aware of how he must look. The truck was coming too fast. "I just reacted." Thompson reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. The paper was thick, expensive. William Thompson, CEO of Thompson Investment Group. He handed the card to Marcus. "We need to talk about what happened here." The truck driver was still apologizing, his words tumbling over each other. "The sun was in my eyes. I checked the mirrors. I didn't think anyone was. We'll discuss this later." Thompson's tone made the driver step back. "Mother, let me take you home. You need to rest." "But the young man." Mrs. Thompson reached for Marcus's arm. "We can't just. We'll handle everything appropriately." Thompson guided his mother toward the Mercedes. "Mr. Wilson, expect a call from my office." Marcus stood there, holding the business card as the crowd began to disperse. His phone buzzed in his pocket. More delivery notifications. The doorman, James, helped him gather the ruined pastry boxes. "That was Eleanor Thompson you just saved. Richest lady on the block. Lives in the penthouse." Marcus's hands shook as he picked up his bike. The front wheel was bent from the fall. "I need to call the delivery company. Explain what happened. Kid, you just saved Eleanor Thompson." James shook his head. "Forget about the deliveries. Your life's about to change." The morning sun was fully up now, glinting off office windows. Traffic resumed its normal flow. The construction truck pulled away, its driver still looking shaken. Marcus sat on a nearby bench, staring at the business card. The letters were raised, shimmering slightly. "William Thompson, Chief Executive Officer, Thompson Investment Group, 212-555-0157 William Thompson at Thompsoning." His phone kept buzzing. The delivery app showed missed orders, cancellations, complaints about late deliveries. "Hey, delivery guy." A teenager approached, holding up his phone. "You're already on Twitter." That save was epic. Marcus looked up. More people were filming him, phones pointed his way. He stood, wobbling slightly as pain shot through his shoulder. "I need to go." He started walking, pushing his damaged bike. "Wait," the teenager called. "At least tell us your name." But Marcus was already moving, limping slightly, the business card burning a hole in his pocket. His mind raced with questions. What kind of talk did William Thompson want? Why did he seem so cold about the whole thing? What would happen to his delivery job now? The morning crowds parted around him as he made his way home. Every step sent jolts of pain through his body. His mother would worry when she saw him like this. His phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the delivery app. "Unknown number, Mr. Wilson. This is William Thompson's office. Please confirm your address. We need to discuss this morning's incident." Marcus stopped walking. His fingers hovered over the phone keyboard. Behind him, the intersection where it happened was already back to normal. Cars flowed, pedestrians crossed, life went on. But Marcus knew nothing would be normal after today. He looked at his bent bike, his torn jacket, his scraped hands. Then he started typing his address, each letter another step away from his old life. The sun climbed higher over Manhattan, casting no shadows on the choice he'd just made. Marcus pushed his broken bike up the stairs of his apartment building, each step sending sharp pains through his shoulder. The elevator's out-of-order sign mocked him as he passed each floor. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing. The delivery app showed 12 missed orders and a warning about his account status. 3 news stations had somehow gotten his number, leaving voicemails asking for interviews. He heard his mother's TV through the door of 5C. A news anchor's voice drifted into the hallway. "Dramatic rescue on Madison Avenue this morning, where an unidentified delivery worker saved an elderly woman from." The key stuck in the lock. Marcus had to push hard with his injured shoulder to get the door open. "Marcus!" His mother's wheelchair squeaked across the floor. "Baby, what happened to you?" She took in his torn jacket, the dried blood on his palms, the way he held his right arm against his body. "I'm okay, Ma." He tried to smile, but his face felt stiff. "Just had a little accident." "Little accident?" She wheeled closer, grabbing his hand. "You're all over the news. They're showing the video everywhere. You could have been killed." Marcus sank onto the worn couch. "You saw it? Channel 4, Channel 7, even CNN." She pointed at the TV. "My son, running into traffic like that. What were you thinking? She wouldn't have made it, Ma." The scene played again in his head. The truck, Mrs. Thompson's frightened face, the impact of the ground. "I had to do something." His mother wheeled to the kitchen, returning with their first aid kit. "Take off that jacket. Let me see your shoulder." Marcus winced as he removed the torn delivery uniform. The skin beneath was scraped raw, already turning purple. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. His mother's hands shook as she cleaned the wound. "And your hands too?" "Marcus, these need stitches." "Can't afford stitches, Ma. You know that." He pulled William Thompson's business card from his pocket. "But maybe." She took the card, squinting at the raised letters. "Thompson Investment Group? That's who you saved?" His mother, Eleanor Thompson. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. They want to talk to me. Talk about what? She pressed an antiseptic pad against his shoulder, making him hiss in pain. Don't know. But the son, William, he seemed pretty serious about it. The TV showed the rescue video again. Someone had filmed it on their phone. The footage was shaky, but you could clearly see Marcus sprinting across the street, pushing Mrs. Thompson clear of the truck. Look at you, running like that. His mother's voice cracked. Just like your father, always trying to save everyone. Marcus stared at the floor. Dad was a firefighter, Ma. He was trained for that stuff. I just deliver food. Delivered food, she corrected. No way you're getting back on that bike with these injuries. His phone buzzed. The delivery app displayed a final warning. Account suspended pending investigation of missed deliveries and customer complaints. Great. Marcus dropped the phone on the coffee table. There goes this week's rent. His mother finished bandaging his hands. Maybe it's for the best. You were working too hard anyway. And now, with this Thompson person wanting to talk. A knock at the door made them both jump. Marcus stood up too quickly, making his head spin. Through the peephole, he saw a man in a dark suit holding an envelope. Mr. Wilson. The man's voice was professionally neutral. I'm from Thompson Investment Group. Mr. Thompson sent me. Marcus looked at his mother. She nodded, gripping the arms of her wheelchair. He opened the door. The man was tall, wearing sunglasses despite being indoors. A black SUV was visible through the hallway window, parked on the street below. Mr. Thompson requests your presence at his office tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The man held out the envelope. This contains the details and a car will be sent for you. Marcus took the envelope with bandaged hands. What's this about? Mr. Thompson prefers to discuss that in person. The man turned to leave, then paused. And Mr. Wilson? The media has been asking questions. Mr. Thompson would appreciate your discretion until after the meeting. The door closed with a soft click. Marcus stared at the envelope, his mother wheeling closer. Open it, she said. The paper inside was thick, expensive, like the business card. The letter was brief. Mr. Wilson, your actions this morning regarding my mother require immediate discussion. A car will collect you at 8:30 a.m. Please be ready. William Thompson, CEO, Thompson Investment Group. Immediate discussion. His mother read over his shoulder. What does that mean? Marcus shook his head. No idea. But I'm going to find out. He spent the rest of the day trying to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. His shoulder throbbed. The news kept showing the rescue video. His phone kept ringing with unknown numbers. Around midnight, his mother's coughing from the next room got worse. You okay, Ma? He stood in her doorway. She nodded between coughs. Just the usual. Don't worry about me. She pointed at his bandaged hands. You're the one who needs taking care of now. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. Remember what Dad used to say? About doing the right thing. Even when it hurts, she quoted. That man and his sayings. She touched his injured shoulder gently. He'd be proud of you, baby. But he'd also want you to be careful. The Thompson guy, his face when he saw me. Like he wasn't sure if I was a hero or a problem. Rich people. His mother snorted. They're probably worried about lawsuits or bad publicity. Marcus stood up. I should try to sleep. Big meeting tomorrow. Wear your blue shirt, she called as he left. The one without holes. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The envelope sat on his nightstand, next to the business card. Tomorrow would change everything. He could feel it. His phone lit up with a text message. Unknown number again. Thank you for saving me today. I insisted William meet with you. Don't let him intimidate you. Eleanor Thompson. Marcus read the message 3 times. His hands still hurt. His shoulder felt like it was on fire. But for the first time since the accident, he smiled. Maybe tomorrow wouldn't be so bad after all. The night crept by. Traffic noise filtered through the thin walls. His mother's coughing eventually quieted. Marcus touched his bandaged hands, remembering the feel of Mrs. Thompson's coat as he pushed her to safety. The sound of the truck missing them by inches. The weight of her son's business card in his pocket. Tomorrow was coming, whether he was ready or not. And somewhere in Manhattan, in a penthouse high above the streets, decisions were being made about his future. Marcus closed his eyes, trying to sleep, trying not to think about black SUVs and CEOs and life-changing meetings. But every time he dozed off, he saw the truck bearing down, heard the screech of brakes, felt the impact of the ground. And each time, he made the same choice. Even when it hurts, just like his father taught him. Marcus woke before his alarm, his shoulders stiff from sleeping in one position. The digital clock showed 6:15 a.m., 2 hours until the car would arrive. His phone screen lit up with missed calls and messages. News stations, reporters, random numbers. One message stood out, from his delivery company. Account permanently deactivated due to abandoned deliveries and customer complaints. Final payment processed. Damn! He checked his bank app. The payment barely covered half of this month's rent. His mother's wheelchair squeaked in the kitchen. The smell of coffee drifted through the apartment. "You're up early," he said, walking in. She looked like she hadn't slept. "Had to make sure you didn't oversleep." She pointed to his blue shirt and black pants, ironed and hanging on the bathroom door. "Your good clothes." Marcus touched the shirt. The collar was frayed, but it was the best he had. "Thanks, Ma. Eat something." She pushed a plate of toast across the table. Can't meet rich people on an empty stomach. He tried to eat, but the toast felt like cardboard in his mouth. His bandaged hands made it hard to hold the coffee cup. "What time is the car coming?" His mother wheeled to the window, peering down at the street. 8:30. Marcus checked his phone again. 7:05 a.m. Still got time. She turned from the window. "What are you going to say to him?" "This William Thompson. Truth, I guess. That I saw his mother in danger and just reacted. And if he offers you money." Marcus paused. The thought had crossed his mind. "Would that be so bad? With your medical bills and everything. Just be careful." She gripped his hand. "Rich people don't give money without wanting something in return." At 8:15, Marcus stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie. The blue shirt hung loose. He'd lost weight from all the cycling. His reflection showed dark circles under his eyes. His mother rolled up behind him. "Here." She handed him his father's old watch. "Wear this. Look professional." The watch was heavy on his wrist. The glass was scratched, but it still worked. His father had worn it to every shift at the fire station. At 8:25, his mother spotted the car. "It's here. Black SUV, just like yesterday." Marcus looked out the window. The vehicle stood out on their street, clean, expensive, tinted windows. A few neighbors had stopped to stare. His phone buzzed with a text, "Car waiting outside. Please come down." "Remember," his mother said as he grabbed his jacket, "you're a hero. Don't let them make you feel small." The elevator was still broken. Marcus descended the stairs slowly, his shoes echoing in the stairwell. Each step made his shoulder throb. Outside, the driver stood by the rear door. Same guy from yesterday, still wearing sunglasses. "Mr. Wilson." He opened the door. "Please." The SUV's interior smelled like new leather. The windows were tinted so dark Marcus could barely see out. His hands felt sweaty against his pants. They drove in silence. Manhattan traffic crawled around them. Marcus watched people on their way to work, wondering how many had seen the video of his rescue. The car turned onto Wall Street. Glass towers reached into the morning sky. People in expensive suits hurried along the sidewalks. They pulled up to a building Marcus recognized from TV news reports. The Thompson Investment logo covered 20 stories of glass and steel. "Follow me, please." The driver led him through revolving doors into a marble lobby. Security guards watched as they crossed to the elevator. Marcus felt underdressed, despite his best clothes. His bandaged hands drew stares. The elevator was mirror-lined. Marcus caught glimpses of himself from every angle. His tie was crooked. He tried to fix it with clumsy fingers. They got off at the top floor. A receptionist looked up from behind a desk that probably cost more than his mother's medical bills. "Mr. Wilson from Mr. Thompson." She picked up a phone, spoke quietly, then nodded. "Go right in." The office doors were solid wood, 10 feet tall. The driver pushed them open. William Thompson stood at a wall of windows, looking out over the city. He turned as Marcus entered. "Mr. Wilson." "Please, sit." The chair felt too soft. Marcus perched on the edge, trying not to sink into it. Thompson sat behind his desk. He opened a folder, took out some papers. The rescue video played silently on a TV mounted on the wall. "I had my team look into you." Thompson's voice was neutral. 3 years as a delivery cyclist. Before that, various part-time jobs. No college degree. Living with your mother in the Bronx. Father deceased, a firefighter, correct? Marcus nodded. "Yes, sir." "And your mother, she's ill. Multiple sclerosis. Getting worse." Thompson made a note. Medical bills must be substantial. We manage. Do you? Thompson looked up. Because my investigation shows multiple unpaid hospital bills, late rent notices, and a recently suspended delivery account. Marcus's face felt hot. With all due respect, sir, why does any of that matter? I saw someone in danger and helped. That's all. That's all. Thompson stood, walked to the TV. The video showed Marcus pushing Mrs. Thompson clear of the truck. You risked your life for a stranger. That's not all, by any standard. He pressed a button on his desk. The office door opened. A woman in a dark suit entered, carrying an envelope. This contains an offer. Thompson took the envelope, placed it on the desk in front of Marcus. Before you open it, understand something. My mother is important to many people. This incident could attract unwanted attention. Marcus stared at the envelope. It was thick, heavy. Open it, Thompson said. Marcus's bandaged fingers fumbled with the seal. Inside was a contract and a check. The number on the check made his vision blur. $250,000, Thompson said, plus a position at Thompson Investment Group. Entry-level, but with potential for advancement. Full benefits, including medical coverage for dependents. Marcus looked up from the check. What's the catch? Smart question. Thompson sat again. The money and job come with conditions. First, you sign a non-disclosure agreement. The rescue, the meeting, the payment, none of it becomes public. You want me to lie? I want you to be discreet. The media attention dies down. You get a fresh start. My mother's privacy remains intact. Marcus read the first page of the contract. Words jumped out: confidentiality, binding agreement, legal consequences. Why? He asked. Why try to hide it? Thompson's face tightened. My mother is not just Eleanor Thompson. She's on the boards of 3 major banks. Her movements, her schedule, these things need to remain private. For security reasons. And if I say no, the offer disappears. Thompson shrugged. You return to your life of late bills and mounting debt. Your mother's condition continues to deteriorate without proper care. Marcus felt the weight of his father's watch on his wrist. What would he have done? The contract waited on the desk. 20 pages of legal language that would change his life forever, or end it before it began. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Probably his mother, wondering how the meeting was going. His mother, who needed better doctors, better care, a better life. The pen sat next to the contract, heavy with promise and price. Marcus reached for it with bandaged hands. The choice felt like another kind of rescue. But this time, he wasn't sure who he was saving. Marcus stared at the pen in his bandaged hand. The contract lay open on Thompson's desk, waiting for his signature. Before you sign, Thompson said, let's discuss your potential position here. The office door opened. A security guard entered, followed by 3 men in suits. They carried laptops and folders. Our HR team, Thompson explained. They'll handle the paperwork. Marcus sat straighter in his chair. The men arranged themselves around the room, opening laptops, shuffling papers. Mr. Wilson, the first man said, I'm David Chen, head of human resources. We've prepared several options for your role here. Chen placed a folder in front of Marcus. The Thompson Investment Group logo gleamed on the cover. Junior financial analyst, Chen read. Starting salary $60,000 per year, plus benefits. Full medical coverage for you and your mother. Training provided. Marcus flipped through the pages. Graphs, charts, numbers that made his head spin. I don't know anything about finance, he admitted. Which is why we start you in operations, the second man cut in. I'm Robert Hayes, operations director. My team handles the practical side of things. Building management, security, client services. Thompson watched from behind his desk. His expression gave nothing away. Why? Marcus asked. Why offer me a job at all? The money isn't enough. Consider it insurance, Thompson said. You work here, under our supervision. It's cleaner that way. A knock at the door interrupted them. Eleanor Thompson entered, leaning on her cane. Mother, William stood quickly. You should be resting. I'm fine, William. She smiled at Marcus. I wanted to see the young man who saved my life. Properly this time. The room shifted. The HR team stepped back. William Thompson's face tightened. Mrs. Thompson, Marcus started to stand. Please, sit. She moved closer, studying his bandaged hands. Those look painful. From the fall. Marcus nodded. They'll heal. Just like my son's pride. She gave William a sharp look. Are you threatening this boy with legal papers? Mother, we're conducting business. Business? She laughed. He saved my life, William. And you're treating him like a problem to solve. The HR team looked uncomfortable. Chen closed his laptop. Perhaps we should continue this later, Hayes suggested. No. Eleanor Thompson sat in a chair next to Marcus. I want to hear what kind of business my son is proposing. William sighed. We're offering Mr. Wilson a position with the company. A fresh start. And the contract, the one requiring his silence. Marcus watched them, mother and son, power shifting between them like a current. It's standard procedure, William said. For security. Security. Eleanor turned to Marcus. What do you think about all this? Marcus felt every eye in the room on him. His father's watch felt heavy on his wrist. I think. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I think doing the right thing shouldn't need paperwork. Eleanor smiled. William's jaw tightened. The boy has principles, William. She patted Marcus's arm. Like someone else I used to know. The room fell silent. William Thompson stared out the window, his back rigid. The offer stands, he finally said. The position, the money, everything. But we do this properly. Legally. Eleanor stood, leaning on her cane. Then do it properly. Show him what he'd actually be doing here. Let him decide with all the facts. She walked to the door, then turned back. And William? Remember what your father would have done. The door closed behind her. The tension in the room deflated slightly. William Thompson returned to his desk. My mother has a point. Mr. Wilson, would you like to see the operations floor? Marcus nodded, standing carefully. His shoulders still ached. They took the elevator down 10 floors. The doors opened onto a massive room filled with desks, computers, and people hurrying in every direction. Operations, Hayes explained. The heart of Thompson Investment Group. They walked through the floor. Employees looked up, whispered as they passed. You'd start here. Hayes pointed to a section of desks. Learning the basics. Client relations, building operations, security protocols. Marcus watched the people working. Their clothes, their movements, their focused expressions. A world away from delivery bikes and street traffic. Through here, Thompson led them to another area. Our training facility. The room was filled with computers and monitors. Young people in business casual attire sat in rows, learning systems and procedures. 2 months of paid training, Chen explained. Then you join the operations team properly. Marcus touched one of the empty desks. The surface was smooth, clean. No scratches, no weather damage, no danger. And if I say yes, he asked, what happens next? You start Monday, Thompson said. New clothes, new ID, new life. The past stays in the past. The HR team waited, watching. Marcus looked around the room again. No more early morning rides. No more missed rent. No more choosing between food and his mother's medicine. But also no more freedom. No more simple right and wrong. No more being just Marcus Wilson, delivery guy who helped when he could. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. You okay, baby? What's happening? Can I think about it? He asked. Thompson checked his watch. 24 hours. The offer expires then. They rode the elevator back to the top floor. The contract still waited on Thompson's desk. One more thing, Thompson said as Marcus reached the door. My mother likes you. That's unusual. Marcus turned. Is that good or bad? Depends on what you do with it. Thompson picked up the contract. 24 hours, Mr. Wilson. Choose wisely. The security guard escorted him to the lobby. The same black SUV waited outside. As they drove back to the Bronx, Marcus watched the city pass. Delivery cyclists wove through traffic. Construction trucks rumbled past. Life continued, unchanged. But for him, nothing would ever be the same. The SUV stopped in front of his building. The driver handed him an envelope. The contract, he said. In case you decide. Marcus took the elevator to his floor. It was working today, of all days. His mother waited by the door. Well, he showed her the envelope, the job offer, the check. They want to buy your silence, she said. They want to buy everything. Ma. She wheeled to the window. Below, The black SUV pulled away. "What are you going to do?" Marcus touched his father's watch. The glass was scratched, but the time was perfect. 24 hours to decide. 24 hours to change his life. "I'll keep his soul." Marcus sat at the kitchen table, the contract spread out before him. His mother's wheelchair creaked as she moved around the kitchen, making dinner they couldn't afford. "You haven't touched your food," she said, watching him read the same page for the 10th time. "Listen to this." He pointed to a paragraph. "The party agrees to maintain complete confidentiality regarding all aspects of the incident, including but not limited to the rescue, subsequent meetings, and any compensation received." She set a cup of tea in front of him. "They want to erase it, like it never happened. There's more." He flipped to another page. "Any violation of these terms will result in immediate termination of employment and legal action for damages." The kitchen clock ticked. 18 hours left to decide. His phone rang. Unknown number. He'd gotten 37 calls like this today. "Another reporter?" his mother asked. Marcus checked the caller ID. "No, it's Eleanor Thompson." His mother wheeled closer as he answered. "Hello, Marcus, dear." Eleanor's voice was warm. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "No, just reviewing the contract." "Ah, yes. William's paperwork." She sighed. "Tell me, what do you think of it?" Marcus looked at his mother. She nodded encouragingly. "Honestly, it feels wrong. Hiding what happened. It's like saying it didn't matter." "My thoughts exactly." A pause. "Would you be willing to meet me? There's a diner near your apartment." The Silver Spoon. Marcus knew it. He'd delivered from there countless times. "Now?" he asked. "In an hour. Just you and me. No lawyers. No William." His mother gripped his arm. "Go," she whispered. "I'll be there, Mrs. Thompson." The Silver Spoon was quiet at this hour. A few regulars nursed coffee at the counter. Marcus had changed back into jeans and a clean t-shirt. Eleanor Thompson sat in a corner booth, looking oddly at home despite her expensive clothes. "No cane today, Marcus." She smiled as he approached. "Please, sit." "I ordered coffee." He slid into the booth. The vinyl seat squeaked. "How are your hands?" she asked. He flexed his bandaged fingers. "Better." Shoulders still sore. The waitress brought coffee. Eleanor waited until she left. "William means well," she said, stirring sugar into her cup. "He's protective, like his father was. The contract is his way of controlling things." She sipped her coffee. "But some things shouldn't be controlled. They should inspire." Marcus wrapped his hands around his mug, feeling the warmth through the bandages. "What do you mean?" "That moment, when you saw me in danger." Her eyes held his. "You didn't think about money or consequences. You acted from here." She touched her heart. "Anyone would have." "No, dear. They wouldn't." She reached into her purse, pulled out a folder. "I did some research. 3 similar accidents at that intersection in the past year. Dozens of witnesses each time. No one moved." Marcus opened the folder. "Police reports, news clippings." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying your instinct to help shouldn't be buried under legal papers. It should be encouraged. Supported." She pulled out another document. Different from William's contract. "My counterproposal," she said. "Read it." Marcus scanned the first page. His eyes widened. "A scholarship program." Eleanor nodded. "For delivery workers who want to advance their education. Plus emergency medical coverage for their families." "Why?" "Because you're not the only one out there, Marcus. Not the only one choosing between education and survival." The diner's bell chimed as new customers entered. Eleanor lowered her voice. "William's offer is generous, but it's about control. This," she tapped the scholarship proposal, "this is about change." Marcus, read more. "The program would start small, maybe 5 students the first year." "How would it work?" "You'd help design it. Choose the recipients. Share your story to inspire them." She paused. "No confidentiality agreements. No silence." Marcus thought about his cancelled college plans. About other delivery workers he knew, struggling with the same choices. Would Thompson Investment Group fund it? "I would." Eleanor's voice hardened slightly. "My money, my choice." William can't object. The diner's clock showed 9:45 p.m. 15 hours left on William's deadline. "Why me?" Marcus asked. "Why trust me with this?" Eleanor reached across the table, touched his bandaged hand. "Because you didn't see a wealthy woman that morning. You saw someone who needed help. She smiled. That's who should be choosing who gets help next. Marcus stood up, needed to think. Can I walk you home? Of course. Outside, the night air was cool. They walked slowly, Eleanor setting the pace. William's offer is still there, she said. The job, the money, but with my conditions, not his. They reached a building. The doorman nodded respectfully. 24 hours wasn't much time to decide, Marcus said. Sometimes the biggest choices come with the shortest deadlines. She touched his arm. Your father was a firefighter. Yes. Died in a building collapse. Saving people. Like father. Like son. She pressed the scholarship proposal into his hands. Sleep on it. Call me tomorrow. Marcus walked home, reading the proposal as he went. The words blurred, but the meaning was clear. A chance to help others. To change things. To do more than just survive. His mother was still up when he got home. Well, she asked. Marcus spread both documents on the table. William's contract. Eleanor's proposal. I need to write something, he said. He worked through the night. His hands ached, but he kept typing on his old laptop. His own proposal. Taking the best of both offers. Adding something new. The sun was rising when he finished. His mother found him at the kitchen table, practicing his pitch. You decided? She asked. Marcus looked at his father's watch. 3 hours until the deadline. Yeah. He stood, stretching his stiff shoulder. I'm going to tell them a story. About what? About choices. About doing what's right. He showed her what he'd written. About changing more than just one life. She read it, tears in her eyes. Your father would be proud, she said. Marcus packed the papers in his backpack. William's contract. Eleanor's proposal. His own vision. Time to face the glass tower again. Time to make a different kind of rescue. The same black SUV waited outside Marcus's building at 8:30 a.m. sharp. This time, he carried his backpack with 3 documents inside. William's contract, Eleanor's proposal, and his own plan. Good morning, Mr. Wilson, the driver said, opening the door. The leather seats felt different today. Marcus sat straighter. His shoulders still sore but his mind clear. The morning traffic crawled around them as they headed downtown. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Show them who you are, baby. The Thompson Investment Building rose ahead, glass and steel catching the morning sun. Marcus touched his father's watch, checking the time. 20 minutes until the deadline. The security guard at the desk recognized him. Mr. Thompson is waiting. The elevator ride felt shorter this time. Marcus used the mirrored walls to straighten his tie. He'd worn the blue shirt again, but with more confidence. William Thompson's office door stood open. Inside, Thompson sat behind his desk, the HR team arranged around him. Eleanor Thompson sat in a corner chair, her cane across her lap. Mr. Wilson. Thompson gestured to the chair in front of his desk. You've made your decision. Marcus sat down, placing his backpack on the floor. Yes, sir. But first, I'd like to present something. He pulled out his laptop, old and scratched, but functional. Thompson's eyebrows rose slightly. The deadline was for a decision, not a presentation. William, Eleanor's voice cut in. Let him speak. Marcus opened his laptop, turned it so everyone could see the screen. He'd practiced this all night, rehearsing until the words felt natural. Yesterday, you offered me a choice, he began. Money and security in exchange for silence. A new life for keeping quiet about the old one. He opened his first slide, a photo of the intersection where he'd saved Eleanor. But that morning wasn't about choices. It was about instinct. About doing what's right without counting the cost. Thompson leaned back, his expression unreadable. The HR team exchanged glances. Mrs. Thompson showed me something yesterday. Marcus pulled out Eleanor's proposal. A different way to look at this situation. Not as something to hide, but as something to build on. He clicked to the next slide, statistics about delivery workers in New York City. 30,000 delivery workers in Manhattan alone. Average age, 24. Average education level, high school. Average income, below poverty line. The numbers filled the screen. Hard facts in black and white. Most of us want more. Want to study, to grow, to contribute. But we're stuck in a cycle, working to survive, surviving to work. Eleanor smiled encouragingly. Thompson's face remained neutral. Your original offer? Marcus placed the contract on Thompson's desk. It solves my problems, but it buries the story. And stories? He glanced at Eleanor. Stories can change lives. He opened his own proposal, laid it next to the contract. This is my counteroffer. A modified version of Mrs. Thompson's scholarship program, but with a twist. He clicked to his final slides. Graphs, projections, possibilities. Instead of just financial aid, we create a full support system. Education grants, yes, but also mentorship programs, internship opportunities. Real paths to change. Thompson picked up Marcus's proposal, scanning the pages. And the funding? He asked. Split 3 ways, Marcus said. The Thompson Group for corporate backing. Mrs. Thompson's Foundation for educational support. And he took a deep breath. A percentage of my salary when I start working here. The room went quiet. Even Eleanor looked surprised. You take the job? Thompson asked. After everything? Yes, but not in operations. Marcus straightened in his chair. Put me in community outreach. Let me run this program. Let me show others there's a way up. And the confidentiality agreement. We modify it. Keep Mrs. Thompson's privacy. But let me tell my story. Let me show others that one moment of courage can change everything. Thompson stood, walked to the windows. The city spread below, thousands of delivery workers already on their morning routes. Mother, he asked without turning. Your thoughts? Eleanor stood, moving to Marcus's side. I think we found more than a hero, William. We found a leader. Thompson turned back to the room. Mr. Chen? The legal implications? The HR director flipped through Marcus's proposal. We can modify the agreements. Create a new position. The framework is sound. Mr. Hayes. Community outreach could use fresh blood. And his background, it adds authenticity. Thompson returned to his desk, studying Marcus's face. Why? He asked simply. Why not just take the money and run? Marcus thought about his father's watch, still keeping perfect time. Because some things are worth more than money, he said. Like showing people they matter. Like proving that doing the right thing isn't just for heroes. It's for everyone who's willing to try. Thompson picked up a pen, rolled it between his fingers. The salary stays the same, he said. Benefits, medical coverage for your mother. But you'll have to work harder than you ever did on that bike. I'm ready. The scholarship program starts small. 5 students the first year. We evaluate before expanding. Agreed. Thompson looked at Eleanor. She nodded slightly. One more thing. He faced Marcus. You'll need new clothes. Can't have our community outreach director looking like a delivery boy. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Does that mean? Welcome to Thompson Investment Group, Mr. Wilson. Thompson extended his hand. Don't make me regret this. Marcus stood, shook Thompson's hand with bandaged fingers. Eleanor beamed from her chair. The contracts will be revised today, Chen said. You can start Monday. 1 week, Thompson added. Get your hands healed. Say goodbye to your old life. Marcus packed up his laptop, his proposals, his dreams turned real. Eleanor walked him to the elevator, leaning on her cane. You did good, dear, she said. Now the real work begins. The doors opened. Marcus stepped in, turned back. Mrs. Thompson? Thank you. For everything. Thank you, Marcus. For showing William that some risks are worth taking. The elevator descended. Through the glass walls, Marcus watched the city grow closer. His phone buzzed. His mother again. Well? He typed back. We did it. Ma. All of it. The black SUV waited below. But this time, it wasn't taking him back to his old life. It was driving him toward a new one. A life where doing the right thing wasn't just an instinct. It was a job description. Monday morning felt strange without a delivery bag on his back. Marcus stood in front of his bedroom mirror, adjusting the tie of his new suit. One of 3 that Thompson's personal tailor had fitted him for last week. Look at you, his mother said from the doorway. Like a whole different person. Marcus smoothed down the charcoal gray jacket. Feel like one too? Your father wore a suit to my brother's wedding. She wheeled closer. Only time I ever saw him dressed up. He kept pulling at the collar, saying it was choking him. Marcus touched his own collar, Italian cotton, the tailor had said. More expensive than anything he'd ever owned. Your appointment's at 10? He asked. She nodded. New Dr. Thompson recommended. Upper East Side. I'll have the car pick you up at 9. The words still felt odd in his mouth. having a car, making appointments, planning futures instead of just surviving days. His phone buzzed, not with delivery notifications anymore, but with emails from his new Thompson Investment Group account. Meeting at 8:30, he read, Scholarship Program Planning. The black SUV waited outside, his now, with a different driver. No more delivery bike leaning against the wall. He donated it to a guy just starting out, along with his old delivery bags. Good morning, Mr. Wilson, the driver said, opening the door. Traffic moved differently when you weren't weaving through it on a bike. Marcus watched delivery cyclists dart between cars, wondering if any of them would be in his first scholarship group. The Thompson building lobby felt less intimidating now. Security nodded as he passed, his new ID badge clipped to his lapel. Morning, Mr. Wilson, the elevator operator said. 15th floor. Yes, thank you. His new office was there, small, but with a window. A desk. A computer that worked. Business cards with his name and title. Director of Community Outreach Programs Eleanor Thompson waited by his office door. First day jitters? She asked, smiling. A few. He unlocked the door, his space. Still feels unreal. William wants to see us before the meeting. He's reviewing the first scholarship applications. They took the elevator to the top floor. William Thompson stood at his usual spot by the windows. Marcus. He turned, nodding. Mother. The applications are here. A stack of folders sat on his desk. 25 stories from 25 delivery workers, each hoping for a chance. How many for the first round? Marcus asked, though he knew the answer. 5, Thompson said. Choose carefully. They'll set the tone for the whole program. Marcus opened the first folder. A photo clipped to the application showed a young woman on a delivery bike, rain gear dripping. Maria Santos, he read. 22. Single mother. Works double shifts to support her daughter. Wants to study accounting. Eleanor picked up another file. James Chen. 19. Helps support his elderly grandparents. Dreams of computer science. These are exactly who we're looking for, Marcus said. People with drive, with responsibilities, with dreams bigger than their current circumstances. Thompson watched him read through the applications. You see yourself in them. I see potential, like you and Mrs. Thompson saw in Mir. The morning passed in a blur of meetings. HR wanted procedures. Legal needed waivers. Marketing talked about press releases. At noon, Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Doctor says the new treatment can start next week. Insurance approved everything. He smiled, remembering nights wondering how to pay for her medications. Now, reading texts about approved treatments in his corner office. A knock at his door. Hayes from operations. Wilson. Got a minute? Sure. Come in. Hayes sat, looking uncomfortable in Marcus's visitor chair. Some of the delivery services are asking about the scholarship program. Words getting around. Good. That's what we want. Thing is, Hayes shifted. They are worried about losing workers. If everyone goes to school. Marcus leaned forward. Tell them what Thompson told me. We start small. 5 students. Part-time studies. They keep working while they learn. And after they graduate, they become examples. Show others it's possible. Marcus stood, walked to his window. Maybe some come work here. Maybe others start their own businesses. But they all prove that delivery work doesn't have to be a dead end. Hayes nodded slowly. You've really thought this through. Had 3 years on a bike to think about it. After Hayes left, Marcus looked at his calendar. Meeting with Eleanor at 2. Budget review at 3. Dinner with his mother at 6. Her choice of restaurant, anywhere she wanted. His phone buzzed again. A news alert. Thompson Investment Group launches revolutionary scholarship program. The article had quotes from William Thompson about corporate responsibility, from Eleanor about community investment, and from Marcus Wilson, former delivery worker turned program director. Another knock. Eleanor, have you seen the news? She asked. Just reading it. William's pleased. Says applications are already coming in. Marcus touched his father's watch, still keeping perfect time. Think we're doing the right thing? You turned down money for silence and created something bigger. She touched his arm. I'd say that's the definition of right. They spent the afternoon reviewing more applications. Stories of struggle, of dreams, of people one chance away from changing their lives. At 5, Marcus packed his new briefcase. His shoulder hardly hurt anymore. The elevator ride down felt different now. No more looking at his reflection, wondering if he belonged. Outside, delivery workers pedaled past the building. Some waved. They'd heard about the program, about the delivery guy who made it up to the glass offices. His driver opened the car door. "Home, Mr. Wilson." "No," Marcus said. "The Silver Spoon Diner first." The place where Eleanor had shown him a different path, where choices became possibilities. He walked in, still wearing his new suit. Sat in the same booth. The waitress brought coffee without asking. "Heard about your program on the news," she said. "My kid brother does deliveries. Tell him to apply," Marcus said. "Next round starts in 6 months." She smiled. "Already did." Marcus sipped his coffee, watching the city move outside. Delivery bikes, construction trucks, lives intersecting. His phone buzzed. A text from Thompson. "Board meeting tomorrow. Bring the next quarter's projections." Another from his mother. "Doctor says I might walk again. New treatment looks promising." And one from Eleanor. "You did good today, dear. Keep going." Marcus finished his coffee, paid with his new company card, left a big tip. Outside, the evening light caught the Thompson building's glass walls. His office window was up there somewhere. A delivery cyclist pedaled past, orange jacket bright against the darkening sky. Marcus straightened his tie, checked his father's watch. Time to go home. Time to rest. Tomorrow would bring new applications, new stories, new chances to hold the door open for others. Just like someone had held it open for him. 1 month into his new job, Marcus stood at the intersection where everything had changed. The morning sun hit the same spot where he'd seen Eleanor Thompson step into danger, where a split-second choice had altered the course of his life. His phone buzzed, no longer delivery notifications, but a message from his assistant. "Scholarship launch event starts in 2 hours. Press arriving at 10. The construction site was gone now. New safety barriers lined the crossing. Small changes, but important ones. Feels different from this side, doesn't it?" Marcus turned to find Eleanor Thompson behind him, leaning lightly on her cane. She looked stronger now, her walks part of her doctor-prescribed routine. "Mrs. Thompson, didn't expect to see you here. Thought I'd walk over for the ceremony." She stood beside him, watching the traffic flow. William's already at the office, fussing over his speech. A delivery cyclist zoomed past, orange jacket bright in the morning light. Marcus touched his own suit jacket, dark blue today, perfectly tailored. "First 5 scholars arrive at 9, he said. "Want to meet them early, before the cameras show up?" "Nervous?" "They are. Like I was, that first day in the glass tower." They walked together toward the Thompson building. The doorman, James, held the door. "Big day, Mr. Wilson," he said, grinning. "My nephew's application is ready for the next round. Make sure he gets it in early," Marcus replied. Words spreading fast. The lobby buzzed with unusual energy. Workers set up a podium, arranged chairs. A banner hung above. Thompson Investment Group's scholarship program. Building bridges, changing lives. Marcus's office on the 15th floor had changed too. Photos lined one wall, him with his mother at her first successful physical therapy session, the original rescue caught by a bystander's phone, the day he'd signed his revised contract. "Mr. Wilson," his assistant poked her head in. "They're here." 5 young people sat in the conference room, wearing their best clothes, looking as nervous as Marcus had felt 1 month ago. He recognized them from their applications, their stories. Maria Santos, still in her delivery jacket, checking her phone for messages from her daughter's babysitter. James Chen, hands callous from bicycle handlebars, homework visible in his backpack. 3 others, each with their own dreams, their own reasons for being here. "Welcome," Marcus said, entering the room. "I know those chairs feel pretty uncomfortable right now." They laughed, tension breaking slightly. "1 month ago, I sat where you're sitting, thinking I didn't belong, wondering if it was all some mistake." He moved to the window, gestured at the city below. "Out there, right now, thousands of delivery workers are moving through these streets. Each one with a story, each one with potential." Maria raised her hand. "We saw the news reports. About how you got here." Marcus nodded. "The rescue made headlines. But that's not why we chose you for this program." He placed their applications on the table. Maria, working doubles, studying accounting books between deliveries. James, teaching yourself coding on a borrowed laptop. Each of you doing more than just surviving. Each of you ready for change. The elevator dinged. William Thompson stepped in, followed by Eleanor and the HR team. "Mr. Thompson," Marcus said, "meet our first class." Thompson surveyed the room. "Ms. Santos, Mr. Chen." He nodded to each scholar. "Welcome to Thompson Investment Group." Eleanor moved among them, talking softly, putting them at ease, just as she had done for Marcus. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from his mother. "Walking 50 feet today in therapy. Doctor says I'm breaking records." He smiled, remembering the wheelchair in their old apartment. Now she had a ground-floor condo, professional care, and a future full of possibilities. "It's time," his assistant called. "Press is ready." They rode down to the lobby together, Marcus, the scholars, the Thompsons. The elevator that had once made him feel so out of place now felt right. Cameras flashed as they emerged. Reporters called questions. Marcus guided his scholars to their seats, proud of their straight backs, their ready smiles. William Thompson approached the podium. 1 month ago, he began. A split-second decision changed not just 2 lives, but an entire corporate philosophy. The speech was good, talking about responsibility, opportunity, change. But Marcus watched his scholars' faces. Saw hope replace nervousness. Saw futures begin to form. Eleanor squeezed his hand as William finished. "Your turn, dear." Marcus walked to the podium, adjusted the microphone. Faces looked up at him, reporters, employees, his new scholars. And there, in the back, wearing a new dress and standing with a walker, his mother. Tears in her eyes, pride in her smile. "My father was a firefighter," Marcus began. "He taught me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and moving forward anyway." He told them about that morning. The truck, the choice, the fall. But this program isn't about one rescue. It's about many. It's about seeing potential in every orange delivery jacket. About turning one moment of courage into a lifetime of change. The scholars sat straighter. Cameras clicked. "Today, we welcome our first 5 scholars. In 6 months, we'll welcome more. And more after that." He saw delivery workers gathering outside the glass doors, watching, perhaps seeing their own futures reshape. Because sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest choices. Sometimes saving one life means saving many. Sometimes, he touched his father's watch, still keeping perfect time. Sometimes doing the right thing opens doors you never knew existed. The applause felt like a wave. His mother wiped her eyes. Eleanor beamed. Even William Thompson smiled. After the ceremony, after the photos and handshakes, Marcus took his scholars on a tour. Showed them their study spaces, their mentors, their paths forward. "Mr. Wilson," Maria asked as the others left, "did you ever think, that morning on your bike, that you'd end up here?" Marcus looked out at the city, his city, different now but still the same. "No," he said honestly. "I just saw someone who needed help, and now you're helping us." "No," he smiled. "I'm just holding the door open. You'll do the rest yourselves." That evening, Marcus drove his mother home from the event. No black SUV today, his own car, bought with his first month's salary. "Your father would have loved this," she said, touching the scholarship program brochure. "The suit would have made him laugh." "No, baby." She gripped his hand. "The man wearing it would have made him proud." At home, Marcus hung up his suit jacket. His phone buzzed one last time. Eleanor Thompson. "Saw 3 delivery workers filling out applications today. It's starting, dear. It's really starting." Marcus walked to his window. The city lights sparkled below. Somewhere out there, delivery workers were finishing their shifts, dreaming of something more, just like he had, just like he'd helped make possible. He touched his father's watch. The glass was still scratched, but the time was true. Time to rest, time to dream, time to wake up tomorrow and hold the door open for someone else. Because sometimes the biggest rescues don't happen in a moment. Sometimes they happen one scholarship, one dream, one life at a time. And Marcus Wilson, former delivery worker, now director of community outreach, knew his real work was just beginning.